Hello, my name is John Mayer, and I'm the Executive Director of CALI, the Center for Computer Assisted Legal Instruction. And I'm supposed to be there presenting to you live, but it's actually midnight here in Chicago, and I've gotten back a little while ago from spending 7 hours at the airport, hoping to get on a plane to Miami, but the thunderstorms prevented me from being there. So I'm rebooked on a flight tomorrow, unfortunately, without enough time to get there to give this presentation live. So I decided to record this, and hopefully you're watching, and this is going to work out. So let's take this show on the road. So we're talking about teaching contracts in the digital age, and I'm the non-lawyer here. I'm an engineer, and I've been been the executive director of CALI for, oh my goodness, 20 years this year, 2014. I started in 1994. I've been in legal education for 25 years, 27 years now. Actually, I started as the IT director at Chicago Kent back in 1987. But I'm going to talk about three things very fast. I'm going to cover a lot of territory: casebook disruption, classroom innovation, and something that I call meta contracts. Let's dive right in. So the casebook world is going through some very major changes, all because of the emergence of the ebook. The old casebooks, well, they were nice, right? They were familiar. They're permanent. They had good user interface elements. Everybody knows how to use a book, and they've been working pretty well for 100 years. But they have some problems. They're expensive. That's probably the number one student complaint: is why do I have to pay $200 for this book? They're permanent, and permanence in this case is actually a downside, and I'll get into that when I talk about the ebook side. They're heavy. We did a survey of students, and the number two reason why they didn't like casebooks was how heavy they were, having to haul them around in their backpacks and stuff. They're inflexible. I'll talk more about that from the digital side. They have a single user interface. In other words, it's a physical item, so it's only what you get. You can't increase the font. You can't change the way it's viewed. You can't change the background color. All things you can do on a decent ebook reader. And they have a long publishing cycle. It takes 12 to 18 months by the time the author has turned in their book before the physical book is available. And sometimes the law or the teaching of law, is a lot faster than that. Now, what about ebooks? Now, I have a picture there of the cover of an ebook that CALI publishes, and I'll talk about that in a second. But generally speaking, ebooks can be and should be, in my belief, less expensive. They can be permanent, but that's an option. It's you can send an ebook to a printer and print it out at any time you want. They're light. Electrons don't weigh much. They're flexible, which is to say remixable, which is to say that if you have the permission and you have the software and you have the file, you can add, delete, or change things in the ebook. You can view the book in multiple user interfaces. You could use different types of readers, which is to say different software readers to look at them. You can increase the font. I find I'm not that old, but my eyesight is going, and I find myself constantly hitting the Control Plus on browsers to increase the font size. You can use ebooks on multiple devices. Bring your own device. You could read them on your phone. You could read them on a tablet. You can read them on your computer screen. That gives the students and you lots of flexibility. And best of all, or one of the best things of all, is they can and they should have a shorter publishing cycle. It should be as soon as the author is happy with the work and the publisher is ready to put it up, boom, it's instantly available to everybody in the world from a website. So CALI has a project called the E. Langdell Publishing Project, or the E. Langdell Press, and it's a ebooks for legal education. We pay faculty to write casebooks. We pay faculty, let me repeat that, we pay faculty to write casebooks, and then we give them away for free to students under a Creative Commons license. And we publish them in multiple digital formats so that they'll run on Kindles, iPads. You can have a PDF version. That PDF version can be printed. And in some cases, and in most cases, we're working hard on that. We'll also provide a Microsoft Word version because we know that students want to use the book itself as the note-taking tool. If we know it's hard to write casebooks and that there's a lot of competition there, but the payment that we will give to people is I believe greater than what most authors will see over the life of their casebook. We also think though that the casebook is starting to come apart, become unbundled, let's say, and so we're even interested in people who want to write that one glorious, excellent chapter. If there's one thing or a group of things that you love to teach, that you think you explain better than anybody else, then talk to us about writing the best darn rule against perpetuities chapter or the best darn offer and acceptance chapter that's ever been written. We're interested in that. So Professor Verkerke, I believe, is there. I don't know if he's in this session, but we've published his book, Contract Doctrine, Theory and Practice, in volumes 1, 2, and 3. We're working with Frank Snyder, who's also published a book with us in contracts, and so that has direct relevance, I hope, for you. You should look at these books and decide whether you want to adopt them for your class. Your students will love you because of their cost and their weight. Oh yes, here's my Frank Snyder link. That's right. So we're not the only game in town, and because we're not a commercial publisher, I more advocate for the idea of the flexibility of electronic books. Harvard has a project called H2O, which is a suite of tools. They're less into the ebook concept and more into the website as course materials, where you can develop, remix, and share online textbooks, casebooks, and modules filled with edited cases. Check that out. This is one of their projects that I wanted to highlight, the Kessler, Gilmore, and Kroneman materials for contracts. Semaphore Press is a project out of a couple of law professors where they have an interesting way of charging for the books. They let the student download the book for free, but they suggest a donation. And what they found is that most students will pay somewhere between $15 and $25 per book, which is certainly less than the typical law school casebook. As they say, they're of $180, and they're willing to sign people up to work with them. You may have seen or heard about Eric Goldman, who wrote a book and wrote an interesting article about this in Forbes. I think it was last year. Yes, that's in September. Self-publishing a legal casebook and ebook success story. Rebecca Tushnet was his co-author, and it was a casebook in a niche area, a casebook on advertising and marketing law. A perfect example of why ebooks are a better way, in my opinion, for publishing materials. So what's the future of casebooks? Well, I think the future of casebooks is that we're not going to have casebooks. Instead, the future of casebooks is really course materials. They're being pulled apart and put onto websites. That might be Twen or your blog site or your legal your LMS, your management system. Where your courses are posted, where you put links into PDFs or links into Word files or links into the PowerPoints that you let your students see either a week before the class starts or at the beginning of the course. But this to me is the future of where this is going, and this hands more power over to you as the faculty member and more control over to the student to construct their own educational environment. And to me, that's all good. So that kind of leads me into the next one, which is classroom innovation. Let me start with this article from Edubloggery. They listed the 10 biggest ed tech trends of the year. I talked about ebooks and OER, but the two I want to kick in on very quickly on this is flipped classrooms and learning analytics. And I'm gonna twist this a little bit, but I'll get to that in a second. So first of all, flipped classrooms. If you don't know what a flipped classroom is, it's basically this. A flipped classroom is a form of blended learning, in which the students learn new content online by watching a video. So the students watch a 10-minute or 20-minute video before coming to class, and you use the classroom time instead for project-based learning. In other words, the basic delivery of the doctrine, the black letter law, is up to the student to consume as they see fit before they get to class, so that you can interact with them inside the classroom. Now, there's actually an awful lot going on in this space. University of Utah, especially a fellow by the name of Aaron DeWald, is creating collections of canonical videos. He has quite a few in contracts, in fact, and that's why I wanted to highlight this. And they're calling it the project The First Year. And you can find that at thefirstyear.org. You should check those out. The videos are very basic, and that's not a bad thing. It's intended to walk the students slowly through the material so that they get the basics, and that way they come into class prepared to talk about deeper, more complex topics. Michelle Pistoni at Villanova is also working on a website called Legal Ed Web, in which he's encouraging people to flip their classrooms, to create videos, and to share them with others. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Cali lessons. I think Cali lessons were the original flipped classroom. The idea being that the student would run through the lessons. They're interactive, web-based tutorials. Jennifer Martin, who is the organizer of this conference, has written many lessons for us and is on my board of directors. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak. And we have almost 100 contracts lessons that cover all sorts of topics. Our goal has always been to make the lessons short. You know, they run 20 to 40 minutes for the student to complete, and they're interactive. They ask questions, they branch, they give feedback, they don't hide the ball. And if the students run them before they show up to class, then they're much smarter and more able to discuss deeper ideas in regards to the material. So okay, that's what I wanted to say about flipped classrooms. Learning analytics. I don't want to. Learning analytics in the big sense is about data, about learning progress, but I want to narrow this focus down to something that I think is going to become very prominent in legal education in the next couple of years, and that's what I call formative assessment. Now, formative assessment is feedback that the student gets or that the instructor gets that tells them how well they're doing. In other words, it's not high stakes testing, it's low stakes, it's feedback, it's formative. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's graded without the grade being recorded on your permanent record. The screen up I have is for Cali lessons. Cali lessons are classic formative assessment because you answer a question and you get feedback right away that tells you whether you got it right or wrong. Although many of our authors also create a maybe response, be that as it may. Lesson Link is a feature of Cali lessons where the instructor can create a personal link to a lesson that when the student runs the lesson, the instructor can see the student's results. And so it's a way for the faculty member to see how well their teaching is going or how well their class is tracking what they're doing. And if they're not doing well, then maybe that's something that they should change about their teaching or review before the final exam or deal with in some other way. Oops. This is an article, Empirical Evidence That Formative Assessments Improve Final Exams. I found it extremely interesting. I highly recommend it all for your reading. Cali is working on something that will make formative assessment easier for law faculty. I can't talk about it very much because I don't have all the details, but I know of other efforts going on in the legal education community to add formative assessment or to increase the amount of formative assessment in legal education. This idea of going 14 weeks or 15 weeks and then a final exam that is the entirety of your grade is just something that is not working out very well. All right, to finish up, meta contracts. And meta, what I mean here is it's not about learning how to write a contract. It's about how writing of contracts and how dealing with contracts or the construction of legal documents by lawyers is changing due to technology. Now, you're watching this hopefully after lunch, and Kingsley Martin has already given his lunchtime talk, and so I don't have to say much about contract standards. I was delighted to see that he was on the agenda. I'll just leave that up there as that if he wasn't there, that I would have said more about how he's making people rethink that not every contract is a bespoke, is a built from scratch product. There are an increasing number of startups, companies out there. Shake is an example of one, in which it's an app in which they intend to make contracts simple. They intend to make contracts simple and make the execution of them extremely simple. Shake is an app on your phone where you can create, sign, and send legally binding agreements in seconds. They've gotten a lot of attention. I don't know whether they're going to be around in a year or two, but they're a model that you're going to see lots of examples of. These are the types of companies and these are the types of environment that your students are going to be practicing in. An environment in which contracting is done on your, with an app on your phone. Now, this is a company called Business Integrity, but it's actually, they have a product called Contract Express, and I'll highlight that they have a tool for document assembly that allows you to create self-service contracts. In other words, you go through, it asks you questions, you fill out some forms, and boopity boop, out the end comes a completed document that you can then take for review to a lawyer, or that in some cases can directly use yourself. You're going to see a lot. I was just at Legal Tech New York, and there was at least a dozen of these firms on the exhibit floor selling products that are for lawyers who produce lots of documents, and they're not going to create them all from scratch. DirectLaw is a company. This is an example of a whole class of companies for virtual law practice. And I only wanted to point out that almost all of these virtual law firm websites include the ability to do document automation. And that means the automatic creation or the standard creation of things like contracts or licenses. So this is the type of thing. This is where your students will be practicing from. They won't be. They will be meeting with clients, but they will also be engaging or maybe even doing unbundled practice with clients, via a website. This is an article from the American Bar Association last year by Stephanie Kimbrough. You should read everything that she writes, in which more and more the students are going to be practicing in a space in which they don't handle soup to nuts the issue. They may be called in for only the part where they draft or only the part where they review the contract. And so the question you have to ask yourself is, what does that mean in terms of your teaching? What type of understandings or what types of knowledge or what types of bigger meta picture do the students have to have about contracting and contract language, given this different and new environment that is emerging? So that's pretty much my talk. I appreciate you listening. I'll be around to answer questions. I've included in this slideshow all the links that I had from the thing, and so feel free to take a look or drop me an email if you have any questions about anything I said. Thank you very much.